nailed it. Of course, a resume is a written marketing tool that promotes the unique qualities, skills, and abilities that you have to offer when applying for a job. So of course, you are highlighting all the relevant skills you have for that specific job posting or for that specific job you are applying to. Your resume usually includes your work experience, credentials, accomplishments, education, and volunteer experience, which you all stated through the chat pod. So that is exactly what the resume is for.
Before we get to the next section, I just wanted to ask this question because a lot of people are sometimes confused or they use these terms interchangeably. Do you know what the difference is between a CV and a resume? Is there a difference? So if you have, so I'm just going to give a few more minutes or a few moments for you to write your responses in the message pod. What's the difference between a CV and a resume, if there is a difference? Okay, yes.
CV is longer than a resume. That is definitely true.
Any other responses? Okay. So I don't see anybody typing. So yes, so sometimes we use, you'll hear people using CV and resume interchangeably. Actually, in the North American context, there's actually a huge difference between a CV and a resume. So a CV is mostly, a curriculum vitae is mostly used in North America for academic positions or research fellowships. It's a very long document. So outlining in detail your education history, your experience, your research, conferences you attended, publications, etc. So a CV can be very long, and again, it's used for research purposes or academic purposes. Whereas a resume is a shorter document, and it's not really a work autobiography. So you're not outlining everything that you've done, but a resume is more of a marketing tool for you to get the position that you are seeking. So you have to market yourself, your experiences, your skills and qualifications, as opposed to simply outlining them. So that's the main difference between a CV and a resume. And once you understand that difference, it will help you in crafting your resume once you understand what the purpose of a resume is. Okay, so having said that, so what is the purpose of a resume now that we've explained the difference between a CV and a resume? Why are you writing a resume for? Okay, so we just have a few people typing, so we'll give them some.
To let the employers choose you.
Yes, that's the ultimate goal. So you want to show them that you are the right person for the position, to market yourself for the relevant job. Yes, exactly. Nalinda mentioned it, to match your skills and experience with the job that you're applying to. Perfect. Thank you, Nagoni. Yes. So yes, so the purpose of the resume, so you want to showcase your skills and match your skills to the job that you're applying to so that you can get yourself an interview. So it's a tool for you to get to that interview stage. So employers use the resume to select suitable candidates. And also during the interview stage, they will have your resume as a reference point when asking you questions. Okay. And we all know that, unfortunately, we can't always meet, potential employers, so the resume will have to speak for you in your absence. Yes, it's your first impression. Thank you, Shelley.
All right. So the content, we probably already know what the content is supposed to be on the resume. But again, just to give you some more information, contact information For those of you that don't have a permanent place where you're living right now, you can also just put, for example, if you are residing in Toronto, just put Toronto, Ontario. If you don't have a specific address, that is totally fine. We usually get that question sometimes. Of course, it's a good idea to put your LinkedIn profile as well in that portion of in that section of the resume as well. And of course, it follows with your name, which we all know that. The highlights of qualification or professional summary or profile summary. Again, these are skills you really want to highlight that are relevant, the core skills that are relevant to the job posting you are applying to. And of course, your first statement is the years of experience you have within your field, right? That's the most strong point you want to make sure you have on that resume as well for that section. Also, with your employment history, you want to make sure you are, which we will go more in depth with the content, but again, your employment history is explaining the achievements, your responsibilities, your duties on the job. Also, your education and professional development, any other type of training you've completed, workshops that are relevant to the specific job you are applying to. Also, in your education section, if you've had your credentials assessed, it's good to also put that information on the resume. Of course, if it's very equivalent to the, if it's recognized equivalent to here in Canada as well. And additional information, Mona will go more in depth.
Yeah, so additional information that you can add to your resume. So if you had some volunteer experience, if you had awards or extracurricular activities that you want to include there just to show you as a well-rounded individual, then that's also acceptable to put in there. We don't usually put interests. That's really not necessary for most positions, so just keep it to professional. Okay, so we mentioned before that the resume is a marketing tool. You're not simply outlining what you did, so you're not telling, but you're also in a way trying to sell yourself or sell your skills to that employer. So an important difference between just listing things and demonstrating what you have done is the way that you write the statements under your work history, and we'll have some examples later on when we go in more detail about the different parts of the resume. Okay, so a way to enhance your resume is to write accomplishment statements. Okay. So these statements, you're going to be very to the point about them. Okay, so it's describing what you did or accomplished in your role. So not only listing what your responsibility is, but what did you what was the result or the outcome from what you did in that role. Okay. Ideally, if you can quantify the results, that would be even better, but it's not always possible to quantify things, so don't worry about it if it's not possible. An easy way to formulate accomplishment statements is using this this format here, which we've outlined below, but you don't always have to follow this format, but it's just an easy way to start writing accomplishment statements, and then there are variations of it. Okay, so usually you would start with an action verb in the past tense. So you managed. Then you describe what exactly did you manage. So you managed key accounts, and you can see here that we've quantified it as well. We've added a number. How many key accounts did you manage? 12 key accounts. Okay, and what value did you add? Okay, so you managed 12 key accounts and maintained excellent customer relations. Okay, so this is just an example of how to write an accomplishment statement, and we'll have more samples throughout the webinar.
All right, and before we move on to the next slide, I just want to ask you a quick question. What are the 3 main types of resumes? If you know the names. If you don't, it's fine. It's okay. I will go through it, but we just want to see who knows. Chronological, functional, awesome.
Perfect. Okay, so
All
those are
right.
the two main.
All
The
right.
two.
Oh wait.
Anybody
there's
know the
one,
third?
One more person. Technical. Okay.
Combination.
All
Yes.
right. So named them all. Reverse chronological, functional, and combination. Reverse chronological is chronological. So again, those are exactly the three main types of resume. We're now gonna
just to clarify, so technical is a type of resume, but we're talking about formatting types. So these are the three main types of formats that you can structure your resume.
And before, we will go more in depth with it because we're going to show you different examples and ways of the resumes and why you use them and why not to use them, right? So Mona is going to go into chronological.
So the reverse chronological, starting with your most recent experience, is probably the common and widely used resume format. And has many advantages, and it's usually the recommended one because it's easy to follow, and I think employers prefer the reverse chronological resume the best if you can use it and if it works well for you. Okay, so what are the features of a chronological resume? So it lists your employment history to date. As mentioned before, it is the most commonly or traditional style used. You use this format if you have a steady employment history, usually in a specific field. So what are the components of a chronological resume? So as we mentioned before, you start off with your contact information, address. If you don't have to put your specific like street name, you can just keep it to your city, province, and postal code. If you're going to be widely sending your resume and you don't want to have your unit number or your address, it's okay to leave that out. But just for the employer to know where you're located, it's good to put at least your city and the postal code, province and postal code. Your phone number, your email address, and then if your LinkedIn profile is up to date, include it in there. Okay, and one note about the LinkedIn profile, just ensure that the information on your resume is consistent with the information on your LinkedIn profile. Because there have been cases where recruiters will cross-check, and if there's different information on your LinkedIn profile than what you put on your resume, then they will ask you, or they will they'll ask you about it. I've had cases where clients were asked about that, where there was that discrepancy. So just be very careful. Okay, and then you're going to focus on next the highlights of qualifications, and this is probably the most important section of your resume. So you want to play you want to put a lot of attention into this section here, because again, recruiters, employers, human resource managers, whoever's going to be reading your resume, they get hundreds of resumes, and they don't have time to read your 2 pages, or in some cases more. So the purpose of the highlights of qualification or professional summary, however you want to call it, is to give them a snapshot. So if you can show the employer immediately that you have the skills, the required skills and experience that they're looking for in that position, then they will read on the rest of your resume. So this section is very important. Okay, so just for an example here, this is a teacher. So she's a caring teacher with a track record of high achievements, over 10 years with excellent communication and classroom management skills. So she's outlining already that she has 10 years of experience, excellent communication, and management skills that are all important for a teacher. Designed and taught workable English language curriculum, resulting in an 80% improvement in literacy among 250 students. So if you can put in an accomplishment statement of what you've achieved in your career, then put it up there. Team lead successfully conducted professional development workshops in technology, integration, comprehension, writing, phonics, which improved teacher competence by 95% and improved student scores on standardized tests by 40%. So here's another example of an accomplishment statement that you could incorporate in your highlights of qualification. So it's overall accomplishments that you've done in your career that would actually, market you well for the position. And then finally, positive leader with excellent rapport among staff, administration, students, and parents, hardworking, very committed, and passionate about teaching and learning. So there you have it. There's Sona's highlights of qualification. So just reading those highlights of qualification, would you want to hire Sona on your team as a teacher? Yes. So that one was that's an example of a strong summary of qualifications. So it's not generic, but it was very specific, outlining accomplishments. Okay. So the next step, so the next part of chronological resume would be your work experience. Again, there could be variations. So let's say you're a recent graduate. You could put your education right under your summary of qualifications if you're a recent graduate, and that would be like your most important feature. If you're not a recent graduate but your education is important to the role, so you would put your education after your work experience, but you could mention your education. Let's say you have an MBA and it's relevant to the type of position that you're applying to, that you could mention it in your summary of qualifications so that they know that you have an MBA, and then they know where to look for it. Okay, so under your work experience, so usually you would start off with your title first, and then the name of your organization, the city, and then the date. Okay, so start with the title first, because that's what the recruiters and employers are looking for mostly. And if your title, like where you're like abroad, is a little bit different, but is not commonly, like the name of the title is not commonly used here in Canada, you could modify your title so that it reflects what we call that position here. So for example, I'm just going to give you offhand, maybe you're a bank teller in your home country. You come to Canada here, bank teller is not really used that commonly. So maybe you're like you could be like a customer service rep or a financial service representative, something like that. So just do your research, see what the common position titles are here, and then you can modify your position title so that it reflects what's asked for here and what's commonly used here, and it also will help you when you're applying. Okay. So just very quickly to go over the work experience. So this person taught varying levels of ESL to more than 300 international students from diverse cultural backgrounds. So she's saying what she taught and how many students she taught and who she taught. So differentiate instruction to accommodate lower reading, speaking, and language levels. Provided one-on-one instruction, cooperative support, and partnered students with bilingual students, ensuring a comfortable learning experience and active class participation. Tools that she used role-play videos, stories, hands-on activities, and other strategies to engage students in conversational English. and she was commended by her supervisor for effectively evaluating student progress and providing feedback to students, parents, and school officials. So she's quantifying, she's providing some, so they're not just general statements. She's quantifying where possible and answering, you know, usually the 5 W's, right?
Yeah.
Who, what, when, where, and in some cases how. So you want to be as specific as possible so that you stand out from the rest of the resumes.
So we had a question. Let me just take a look. Is table recommended in resumes to publish? To publish the designation, organizations, and duration.
Overuse of tables, like to structure your whole resume using tables and text boxes. Not really. It's not usually recommended, but if you need to use it, you know, for example, if you use an invisible table to structure your whole resume, it should be,
I guess, be aware sometimes, right? Because if it does go through, which we'll go more in depth with the ATS tracking system, sometimes your resume may lose the formatting through it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it won't go through the scanner properly, and you may be a really qualified candidate. And sometimes tables do throw you off. Throw
the system
off. Sorry. Sometimes what I noticed is some clients, even for myself, I should speak personally. One time I've used tables and I've sent it to my email, and then I opened it up on a different computer and it was shifted all over the place. The formatting did not look great. So that's why we do say sometimes be careful with the tables. Sometimes it depends what the format is.
I guess if you're using it for just one section of your resume,
okay.
It should be okay.
Yeah.
Like as in this question where, you know, to outline your education and designations, it should be okay. But we prefer the use of invisible tables. It's just, it's cleaner. So if you're going to use a table to organize it, hide the borders and the lines, and just be aware that overuse of tables could throw off the applicant tracking systems if you're applying to bigger organizations that use them.
Exactly. And we do have another question. Is it important to provide work location in the experience section?
We recommend that you do. Some people leave it out, but ultimately, you know, I think employers can figure out if you've worked abroad
exactly.
or not.
Exactly.
So we recommend that you just
put it on.
You put it on, and if you have, you know, sometimes global experience is seen as an asset.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Is it a good idea to mention? Oh, here we go. Is it a good idea to mention the client's name if we are into consulting?
If you have
the consent.
Yeah, if you have the consent, if it's not a problem to mention the client for some. If it's not a problem, then go ahead. If you want to show that you've worked with like big multinational companies or Fortune 500 companies or whoever, and it's not a problem, go ahead. It will market you well. But if you had that agreement where you're not allowed to, or it's not supposed to, then it's probably better to play it on the safe side.
And then also, does using PDF format work well with ATS? I guess sometimes with companies, they will tell you what formatting to use, but if it's not stated, you can use PDF. But usually we use
I think PDF can work, but it's recommended that you use a doc format.
Yeah. Unless stated differently.
Yeah.
From the employer on the job posting. And Melinda, do we need to mention the country and experience section if not Canada? If it's not Canada.
Do we need to mention the country in the experience section? I think we answered that already.
Yes.
Our personal preference is that you're open
Yeah.
in your resume, that you do put in where your experience is, but we've had people who've left it out, which is acceptable as well.
So should we prefer to send in resume docx format or PDF format?
If it's like a smaller employer and they're not using an ATS system,
PDF.
I think the PDF is probably better.
Unless stated differently.
Yes.
From the employer.
But if you know that they're using an ATS, and sometimes you can see at the bottom of the, like if you're applying through the company website, or they will tell you what it's powered by. It's like, powered by Telio or whatever. That's an example of an ATS. So in those cases where you have to upload your resume, it's probably safer to do it in doc than PDF.
And then can we add additional skills if we have done some courses in our home country?
Yes, actually, that's thank you for bringing that up, because I should mention, so what some people do between their highlights of qualification or professional summary, however you want to call it, is include a skills section or key areas of expertise section before you go into your work experience. So you can add another section there, just outlining, the key skills or qualifications that you have that are relevant for the position. And then it will also help with the applicant tracking system. So they could be anything from like project management, Agile Scrum methodologies, technologies, tools, languages, whatever it is that you've used that are relevant for the position. So you could put a skills section there between your summary of qualifications and your professional experience.
And before we go into functional, there's one more. Is mentioning numbers like how much percentages we improved already working system is a good idea. It's mentioning numbers like how much percentage we improved already working system.
Yes, it is. So that's an example of quantifying your accomplishments. So if you've improved something, yes, definitely put in a percentage. That's a good example. So we have a question here if we have gaps in the employment. So we'll address that when we talk about the other formats.
Yeah.
And then we have one more question here. I started as a developer, then became a business analyst. So when I'm applying for a position of business analyst, should I mention about the experience as a developer also? Yes, you should. And I'll explain that. So what you could do is, in the chronological format, you can also play around with your headings. So you can write down, for example, relevant experience, and then you can outline your business analyst, and then you can, if you want to do the developer, you can also outline, you can put it under other experience or other professional experience if you want to do it that way. But if your business analyst experience is most recent, I don't think you have to do that. So you can write professional experience and then outline your developing experience afterwards, because there is probably some aspects of your developing experience that are still relevant to your role as a business analyst. So what you can do is you can just highlight those aspects of it that are that would be relevant for your role as a business analyst. Okay, so we'll address more questions later. Okay, and then after that, so I just wanted to mention your voluntary experience. You could put volunteer experience, but let's say you're new to Canada, you took on a co-op experience, and it's very much relevant for the type of positions that you want to apply to. So instead of just putting it under a volunteer experience, again, you can play around with your headings. So if you don't want to write work experience, you can write professional experience or relevant experience. Put down your co-op experience. whatever you did. And it would be like your most recent experience if you want to highlight that you have experience in Canada if it's relevant to your role. So there's again ways, it's flexible. You can modify your headers so that you're reflecting the most important information first. You're positioning your resume so that it can market you more effectively. Okay, so that's it for chronological for now. If you have any questions about it, we can address it.
All right. So for functional, this one is for that question about gaps, right? So functional, it emphasizes more on the transferable skills. It doesn't emphasize, again, with the chronological where you're listing all of your experience, such as the company, the title, and the year. It doesn't really focus on that, the functional. It allows you to draw your past experience, such as including your work, home, and volunteer experience, to display the skills that you have that would be relevant to the position you are applying for. A functional resume, again, is used to if you are returning to the workforce, either changing careers, again, if you have long gaps between your employment, and have moved frequently and do not have basically the best job-related experience for that specific job, but again, you do have the relevant skills for that specific job. So as you can see, here's a little bit, here's the example. Again, it's the same with the professional summary or summary of qualifications. They all have the same heading there. Again, we are stating, of course, the years of experience we have. Again, you're just explaining the relevant skills you have for that specific job as well. So again, it's the same as the chronological in that part. But this is where we're going to focus more, is the professional experience. This is where it's very different. So again, if you are going into something totally different or you have a lot of gaps and you need to highlight the specific core skills. So when you're looking at the job posting, you have to look at what are the specific skills you will need. So for example, as we can see, the skills heading, it shows the key areas of strength. So staff development and supervision. So they are going to explain how they use these skills. And then program coordination and advising/counseling. So again, points should be specific and quantifiable, as Mona stated. So directed staff of 4 to 30, including counseling, support, security, and clerical personnel in several work environments, school counseling centers, community treatment centers, and businesses. Trained, supervised, and evaluated more than 300 staff, enabling them to provide skills and achieve work objectives. So again, as you can see, it's all starting off with the action verb. They have their quantifiable data, 4 to 30. So as you can see, there's numbers. And as Mona said, there's going to be some where you cannot provide numbers or you may not have numbers, but that's totally fine, as long as you're able to be very descriptive in how you demonstrate your accomplishments and your duties and responsibilities from your work experience. So for program coordination, designed a highly successful and innovative parent-child relation program, assist the needs of the parents and the staffing housing resources available, analyze the program design to anticipate and maximize problem areas, evaluated results of a trial run before full implementation. As you can see, these do not have quantifiable data, so meaning they don't have numbers. Coordinated the complex logistics of opening 2 residential treatment centers, including hiring and staffing, training staff, and supervising setup of physical facilities. Also, as you can see for the advising counseling, identified and resolved conflicts between staff members, clarified work relationships, and alleviated communication problems, counseled youth and adults in group on problem solving and crisis resolution. So again, it's the same, but again, you're not highlighting the work experience. You're highlighting the core skills that are relevant to the job you are applying to. And then here's where you will list your work experience. So again, it's different. You're not listing the skills and your skills, accomplishments, duties underneath the work experience. You're just listing your work history. So again, they have your job title, the company, and the years active there. And also here's for the education. Again, if you had your credentials assessed, you will put what it is recognized and equivalent to here in Canada as well.
So just one thing with the work history. So again, if you had volunteer experience, so I'm just going to go back here. So you have your professional experience, but let's say you immigrated here and you have only volunteer experience. I know there's some cases of individuals who have that are sort of related to your position. So again, you can put it under your work history, even if it was volunteer, and you can play around with the headings if you want to write, relevant experience or
relevant professional experience.
Relevant, yeah. So you could put in your volunteer experience there just to fill in the gaps. And you could even leave it as work history because volunteer is work. You're just not being paid for it.
So for combination, again, it's both of them, the functional and the chronological together. So again, it is adaptable to different employment opportunities and will emphasize both skills and employment history. So here is a little bit more of an example.
So as Selena mentioned, the combination resume combines features of both the chronological and the functional, and this is how it looks. So you're going to start off with highlights of qualification. So again, outlining your key areas of expertise that are relevant for the position. And then you're going to outline, so similar to the functional resume, you're going to outline key areas, key skills, and it's better that you categorize them so that it's easy for the employer to see which areas you can contribute that are relevant for the position you're applying to. And then the difference, though, between the combination and the functional is the employment history. So in the employment history, you're not just listing where you've worked, but you're going to add a couple of points. So maybe you want to add a couple of accomplishments or just a couple of key points of what you did in that position. So it's not going to be as extensive as it is in a chronological resume. And you're not going to have, but you're going to have just, maybe 2 or 3 points. Otherwise, your resume will be too long. We're still trying to keep it within 2 pages for this combination resume. Okay, so just under your work experience, you're going to add a couple points of what you did. So for example, this person was a customer service officer. They processed financial transactions requested by clients, including communicating and marketing Bank of Commerce products. And then they balanced all transactions at the close of each business day. And then here's another example. So you're going to have a little bit of both. So that's if you can, a combination resume is like for more professional positions. Like if you have employment gaps and you're applying for not an entry-level position, but something mid-level, then it would probably be recommended that you use a combination resume over a functional resume. But combination resumes can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're trying to keep it within 2 pages.
All right, so beat the machine up. The thing with optically scannable resume, the thing with this is, again, we're talking about the ATS tracking system, which we do see some questions. So again, avoid special characters. So basically you want to keep your resume very, very simple. Use simple formatting. So again, that goes back to using your judgment about tables, right? Using the simple formatting. Customize each resume. So every time when you are applying to a job, it is very, very, very important to always look at the job posting. The job posting that has all your answers in order for you to target that resume to that job posting. So basically, whatever skills and whatever key experiences they are looking for on the job posting and you have it, you should have that already in your resume. Every resume changes because you're always targeting. Sometimes you may need to make minor tweaks here and there, but if you are targeting, you will change your resume all the time, and cover letter, I should say, as well. So again, edit very carefully. Also using the keywords and phase in context, because again, when your resume goes through that ATS tracking system, there could be, I'm just putting a number out there, 400 applicants. And when it goes through that ATS tracking system, they may look for the 10 best resumes, and that means those resumes have matched the job posting, the keywords they have targeted. So again, it is very, very, very important to always target the resume. Mona is going to talk a little bit more about tools we use and we can provide you with here with our program.
Yes, so we'll so applicant tracking system is important if you're, again, applying to larger organizations. If you're applying to government, most likely they will use the applicant tracking system. So if you're in a specific field and you're targeting certain big organizations, so I'll give you an example, like Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson uses applicant tracking system. They have a pretty advanced applicant tracking system that will actually respond to applicants if they didn't score within their whatever it is that like if it didn't screen past. So the applicant tracking system will send you an automatic response that unfortunately you haven't you were not successful in getting past the system. So if you have specific companies, large companies in mind, large corporations, multinationals, banks, you can do some research on that company and maybe even type in ATS, and then you can get a little bit more information about which system they use, and you'll probably find some tips as well on the internet as to how to how to modify or target your resume for working in that particular job, in that company. So there are some tools that you can use. There's something called Job Scan. If you go on their website, and you sign up, you can get 5 free scans. For our clients, because we have subscription to it, so we can get an additional 5 scans, which we pass on to our clients, as a tool for you to use to determine if your resume is, it integrates those keywords very well. So what it does is you upload your resume and the job posting, and then it does, it just reads both documents and sees how well you have integrated keywords and skills in your resume according to that job posting. The job scan usually recommends 80% match, which is very high and difficult, sometimes difficult to achieve, but you do what you can. But it's important that you don't just randomly put the keywords in, that you do put those keywords and phrases in the context. And there are certain things that you can do. Most applicant tracking systems are smarter right now so that they can pick up, like if you put something in plural, or if there was a variation with a dash or not a dash, then they can pick up these kind of things. And Job Scan, I believe, also has a feature where you can modify it. So these are just some. So that's just one tool that you can use. On our goodbye page, we will upload more information about the ATS, about the different, which ones are the most common ATS systems that are used. and then also some tips.
So we're just going to leave up the resume tips right now. You can have a look and of course read through it. But we're going to now open the chat pod now for more questions. So we're just going to scroll up a little bit. Okay, let's see. Here we go. I started as, oh, we did that one, right?
Yes. So
okay.
Can you highlight
your Canadian experience, even though it's not related to the job? For example, you were on a survival job for a long time.
I wouldn't highlight it, but you leave it in the resume, but it wouldn't be highlighted. So I would put it, so let's say, you know, your most relevant experience is from abroad before you came to Canada. So then you can put in relevant experience and put that experience in, and then you could put other experience outlining your Canadian experience if it's not relevant for the position you're applying to.
What are the best ways to get screened through ATS?
So we mentioned before, like, so if you want to pass the ATS system, so you need to study the job posting, you know, and ensure that you're incorporating those key skills and words that you have in from the job description in your resume, as much as possible within context. And then again, there's free tools out there. So we mentioned one of them, which was JobScan, to see how well your resume matches the job posting. And then there are other things as well, just to make sure that your resume is ATS in an ATS friendly format. Exactly. So stay away from graphics, make sure it's just very simple, you know, formatting, and follow the instructions.
How long resume should be for experience of 10 years with multiple companies? Usually we say 2 pages, 1 to 2, but if it does go like to 3, like a half a page, like
I think 3 pages is acceptable for more senior level positions, and if you have a lot of experience in the same field. So what some people do as well, if your work was very project based, you can have you know, 2 pages outlining your experience, and then if you want to outline your projects on the 3rd page, you can do that. But yeah, 3 pages is okay for senior level positions. For everybody else, I think 1 to 2 pages. Usually you don't have to outline anyway more than 10 years, like go beyond 10 years of experience. So if you're, you know, your first roles or your first professional experience, you know, you started off in something but you've moved on to, you know, something else, management, then, you know, your first roles probably are not very relevant. So usually we recommend that you keep your resume within 10 years. Don't put anything there that's older than 10 years.
I have 5+ years of experience and have 4 years of gap. Which one is better for me, functional or combinational?
I think for Kirti,
we'd have to
in your case, if you can use a combination, that would be best. But I think a functional would also might work for you as well. But if you could do combination, it would be better. Mm-hmm. So you would outline your key skills, and you would, if you can, categorize them. That would be good. And then underneath, put in all your volunteer experiences and then your work experience, and then put a one-liner as to what you did under each role or what you accomplished in each role. So it would be a combination resume, I think, would work better for you.
For entry positions in Canada, do the recruiters overlook the resume as overqualified for the experience gained outside Canada and ignore one for the position? I guess, sometimes it depends, right? Like, we do hear that sometimes when we do apply for positions, they will say you are overqualified. But again, it's how you want to, I guess, target the resume, and even using a different style to apply for these positions could work as well. It depends, but again, in other words, you cannot hide your experience as well. That's the other point, right? But again, it depends how you would structure your resume as well. That could probably help you.
Yeah, just to add on to that, so I think Selena made a good point. So if you know that you want to target entry-level positions when you're here, then maybe looking at a different style of resume, like functional, might work better for entry-level positions, especially if it's not in your field. So you're just going to pull out key skills and qualifications, so you're focusing on your transferable skills over your work, like your work history. So then you kind of downplay that. You're not hiding information, but you're just emphasizing the relevant skills for that position, as opposed to like how much experience you have. I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure if that's relevant in your case. If not, then feel free to ask again.
Credentials recognized in Canada. Can we put that in our resume? Oh yes. For your credentials, please do. And put what it is equivalent to and recognized to under the degrees that you had assessed, right? You have had assessed. You want to make sure you do that.
Yeah, so if your credentials have been assessed as equivalent, then put them in there. If they haven't, sometimes the master's degrees are not assessed as equivalent, and if it doesn't work in your favor, then you can leave it out.
Bala, yes, we usually record the webinars and we add it to our platform. Is it possible to download the presentation? We will record, our presentations are recorded, and we will upload them to our platform. Okay.
So I think we're going to move on to the cover letter for the sake of time, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask more questions about the resume and cover letter after we complete it. Okay, so a cover letter. So the purpose of a cover letter is as an introduction to the employer. Do the employers read the cover letter first? Do they even read it? We don't know. Every employer is different. So most likely they'll probably read the resume first, and then if they wanted more information, then they would go to the cover letter. So it showcases your communication skills, and a cover letter can work to your advantage. So there's sometimes key skills or experiences or promotions or certain soft skills that you can't really communicate effectively in the resume, but you can mention that in the cover letter. Or if you have a particular, like let's say you have a particular interest or research area that you've done, or you've researched the company and you're really interested and you want to show what you know about the company and about the industry, then the cover letter is the place where you can communicate that. Also, another thing that you could communicate in the cover letter, so that you can mention that you're, in some cases, if it will work to your advantage, that you've recently immigrated to Canada, you have a lot of global experience, and how you would like to make a contribution, how this experience that you've gained abroad would contribute to the company or the organization that you're applying to. Okay, so we already mentioned the purpose of the cover letter. So again, it's to introduce you and the resume to potential employers.
And just to give you an example of a cover letter, so of course you're going to put your name and information as well as if you know the employer's name. It's really good to do research if you can. If you can't, it's okay to not know the name of the employer, but not name, but I mean like the person who it directly goes to, like Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, right? But if you don't know the name, again, you can put the company name. Usually you can put Dear and the name of the employer or hiring committee. Also, you can put the reference numbers. Usually, sometimes with the job posting, there is a reference number. It's good to add it to the cover letter as well. Again, with the opening paragraph, it explains to the employer why you are writing and sending your resume. So state where you heard about the position. So again, if you heard about it through Indeed, you would state it's from Indeed, right? So I'm writing to apply for the specific position as advertised in or on Indeed website or wherever you found that job posting. Or if you've had a connection with somebody or a network who told you about a specific position, you can mention their name and you should let the person know you are mentioning their name. Mr. George Jonas suggested I connected with you because of ... Again, second paragraph, it tells the employer what you have to offer. State how your skills, experience, and accomplishments relate to the position you are applying for. Summarize why they should hire you. Again, it's a good idea to do company research, look at their mission value, look at their products, their services, and again, you are mentioning your skills and combining your skills, how it would be a great asset to their company, right? So tell the employer what you can do for them and what skills you would use. And again, for the third paragraph, tell the employers why you want to work for them, right? Again, company research. So look at different types of ways how you could make a connection with yourself to that company. Closing paragraph, tell the employer how and when to contact you. Again, let them know the best time you can be reached. You can also provide a designated date and or time during which you will follow up, and let them know you are looking forward to hearing from them, and always say thank you, of course, right? And of course yours truly, and then of course your first name, last name, or sincerely, warmest regards, again, however you'd like. Again, you can't put a signature unless you're giving it to them directly. And then we're going to put it on cover letter tips, and we're going to answer some questions right now.
I just wanted to add one thing about the cover letter.
Go ahead.
So there's different, again, it's flexible. There are variations. So some people put point forms, bullet points highlighting their key areas of expertise. It might be similar. I know we said not to copy the resume, but in some cases, if you're short on time, there are shortcuts you can take. You can do bullet points highlighting key accomplishments or skills in the cover letter. So it doesn't always have to be in a narrative. Maybe the first paragraph and the last paragraph is a narrative, but you could use bullet points in there as well. So it is flexible.
All right. So,
and yes, and we will have sample cover letters.
Again, a few more tips.
Yeah, and Selena and I, that's our main our main function. We read resumes and cover letters. So if you need feedback, you need somebody to proofread your resume cover letter, that's what we're here for.
So again, just to mention a little bit more about our program, PrepCan Online Newcomer Information Center. Again, as Mona said, we do resume critiques. That is, again, our primarily part of our job is to, again, look at the resume, critique it for you, and to give you really great advice. If you're confused of, should I be using a functional? Should I be using a chronological? A combination? We are able to provide you with that support. and again support you through writing content if that may be difficult. You're not sure of how to, I know there's a question about writing quantifiable data on the resume. We're able to support you and provide you with more examples on how to create these statements. And again, through our program, in order to register, again, you have to either be a permanent resident, convention refugee, at least be the age of 16, access to internet or phone because our services is virtual, of course, and ability to use the internet, which we all can see, everyone's on the internet, and also, again, to our services, again, is virtual. We connect with you through phone, email, Skype if needed, and again, we are here to support you through your job search. And again, if you do have any settlement inquiries, we are able to support you with that as well. If you are interested to joining our program, our registration link is right over here. Please do click on our registration link to sign up with our program for those of you who are not signed up with us. Also, we are going to open the floor for more questions as well. So again, before we go to the questions, again, it's Mona and myself, Selena. We also have our own email. If you'd like to email us, if you have specific questions about the program, you can as well. Info, I'm just going to put it in the chat as well. Niconline.ca. All right, and we're going to go to the questions and of course our resource page. Please do ask questions. By the time you are asking your questions, I'm going to be adding some more resources as well.
So we're just going to be adding some more resources regarding like some more resume templates and about more information about applicant tracking systems. So we can answer questions in the meantime while we are uploading some more resources. So there's a question here, Nalinda. I have experience related to internal audit and risk management. My main problem is, sorry, it's just blocked off. Just give me one moment. Okay. So I have experience related to internal audit and risk management. My main problem is quantifying, showcasing the achievement. If it's difficult to quantify, don't worry about it too much. It's an enhancement of your resume. But maybe there are some things that you can quantify but you don't know. So let's say that you saved, through your assessment or risk management of a client's, like you did an audit and you helped them save a certain number of money from potential fees or penalties. So just to ensure that they were compliant with the, with the regulations or standards, and you help them save that money. So maybe there are some things that you can do to put in that quantity. If it's really difficult, then this is an enhancement of your resume. It's not something that's absolutely necessary. It just helps make your resume stand out more so than from the other applicants. Okay. If that didn't answer your question, feel free to ask again. Yes, we can review your resume, so feel free to send it to Nalinda. I believe you were working with me, so if you reviewed revised your resume, or you want me to take a look at it again, I can do so.
And we're still answering questions, but we would love for you all to, again, rate our webinar as well. We have 2 polls right over here just to give us some more feedback, to seeing if we would need to adjust our webinar as well, just to give us some more idea.
I think there was some more questions.
Okay,
yeah.
Give us 1 second.
So right here, do you have sample cover letters? Yes, we've uploaded some sample cover letter for you. Do you need to include a cover letter together with every application or unless specified? In other words, does a cover letter increase your chances? It is highly recommended that you do include a cover letter with every application, but we do know cases where people do get jobs without submitting a cover letter. In some cases, like if you're in a technical field, in some cases you can get away without a cover letter, but it is, if you can do it, then it's recommended. I know it's a lot of work. In some cases, drafting a cover letter is more difficult because it's a narrative than a resume. But if you can, what you can do is maybe you can draft like a master cover letter, and then you would have variations of it that you send out to employers. And we'd be happy as well to read your cover letters or to support you with the cover letter if you need.
Pawandeep, how can we send our resume and cover letter for review? So,
if you're not already a client, then you would need to register. And then once you register, we'll send you an email to send your resume, and you're welcome to send a cover letter as well. Just one thing, when you're sending your cover letter to employers, so if you're not doing it on their system, you're sending it via email, it is recommended that you put the cover letter and resume in one document or in one attachment as opposed to two. Okay. And sometimes you can also write the cover letter in the email, in the body of the email of your you can do that, but I think it's recommended that you just have a very introductory email and then have your cover letter and resume in one document if you're sending it via email. Because that way, if they're getting a lot of applications, they don't have to open two attachments for each application. It's just easier if they're just opening one.